My sister screams and cries at my wedding because she's pregnant by my fiancé, so I canceled it. But I can't believe my mom and sister were so dumb. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. My name is Lily. I had a wedding planned with Benjamin several months ago, but that didn't happen because my sister, Maya, ruined everything. Maya and I have never been close. Not that we are enemies, but Maya has always treated sibling rivalry like it was a religion. She has been competing with me for as long as I can remember. It all started in childhood. Who got better grades, who earned more trophies, who got more attention from mom and dad. I always thought that was normal between sisters. I hoped things would change over time, but Maya clung to her rivalry as if it was the only thing that defined her. I met Ben on a blind date set up by a friend about 4 years ago. At first, I was nervous because I had never been on one, but we connected quickly and started a relationship. When Ben proposed to me, I said yes because I was in love. We had been together for years, and he made me happier than I ever thought someone could. When it was time to plan the wedding, I wanted the day to be perfect, not ruined by nonsense. I didn't want any drama, especially with Maya. Part of me considered not inviting her, but my parents insisted. They said our differences were a thing of the past, and that we were now two adults who could get along. Their words filled me with guilt because I wanted to believe we had both matured. We were no longer kids or teenagers who fought over everything. So, despite my reservations, I sent her an invitation. Finally, the wedding day arrived. I was nervous, but very excited to marry someone so special. However, I was also nervous because I don't like being the center of attention. As I was walking down the aisle, I noticed Maya in the crowd, looking at me. Something didn't feel quite right. I thought it might just be wedding nerves, so I kept walking. I tried to ignore her and focus on Ben, who was waiting for me with a smile. We exchanged a quick and reassuring look, and I felt butterflies in my stomach. This was my moment. But just as the officiant started speaking, Maya stood up. At that moment, I couldn't understand what was happening. I thought there might be a fire or some emergency, but then she said it. She yelled, "Stop the wedding." Everyone was silent, and I felt like the blood was draining from my body. This couldn't be happening. Maya, with the same competitive face she had as a child, said, "I'm pregnant, and Ben is the father." For a moment, I thought I must have misheard. Maybe she said something else. But when everyone started whispering, I realized I had heard her correctly. I turned to look at Ben, expecting him to immediately deny it, confront her, or say something, anything. But he didn't. He just stood there, stunned. I asked him angrily if what Maya was saying was true. All I got from him were some mumbled words. The most audible thing he said was, "I'm sorry." Most of what he said was meaningless, and he looked as pale as a ghost. The officiant, completely bewildered, stepped back and walked away as our families exchanged frantic glances. So I did the only thing I could do at that moment. I slapped Ben in front of everyone. I could have run over to Maya to do the same, but I'm glad I didn't because she was pregnant. She was also screaming and crying at that moment, as if she were a little girl whose lollipop had been stolen. My parents came running over, looking distressed and, to be honest, embarrassed. My mother, in particular, looked furious. I thought she would be angry with me, or at least I thought so. Not knowing what to do, I simply left. I don't even remember how I got to my apartment. I was completely numb. Everything was a blur, like I was on autopilot, until I sat on my bed. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat in my room, staring at the wall. My phone was bombarded with calls and texts from Ben, but I didn't want to respond or read any of them. The wedding was over. My relationship was over. After what happened, I thought my parents would be furious with Maya and take my side. Indeed, they were furious. However, their anger toward Maya only lasted a few days. A week after the canceled wedding, my mother visited me at my apartment and told me that I should step aside and that Ben had to take responsibility for the baby. She said it as if it was something obvious, as if it would be my duty to give up my future and my happiness to accommodate my sister's whims. My family had taken Maya's side without a second thought. It was as if my entire life had been ripped away from me in a single instant. The following days were a nightmare. I barely left my apartment, ignoring calls and messages from everyone. Some friends came over, confused and worried, but I couldn't talk to anyone. I didn't know what to talk about. What do you say when your wedding is destroyed? Ben also tried to contact me many times, even showing up at my apartment, but I ignored him. All I wanted was to disappear, to forget that any of this had happened. A month later, after refusing to answer my mother's calls, I finally, stupidly, answered. I was hoping she had changed her mind and would take my side. Unfortunately, it was a terrible decision on my part. She only called to tell me that I should accept the situation, that Maya and Ben were going to be a family, and that I had to move on. She said it as if I was the one causing the problem by not letting go. She told me that Ben had chosen to be with Maya now, and that I should support them for the sake of the baby. I felt like I was going crazy. My own mother was acting like it was completely normal for my sister to steal my fiancé from me, and that I should just accept it in silence. There was no sympathy or empathy. I was just expected to step aside and allow them to rewrite my entire future. As if things couldn't get any worse, I began to hear from other relatives that my parents were persuading Ben to marry Maya. They wanted the baby to be born into a family with a loving mother and father, which they saw as the only natural thing to do. But Ben, on the other hand, kept trying to explain to me that he was innocent. However, there was nothing I wanted to listen to. I didn't want to know what his excuses were for getting my sister pregnant. Plus, I already had all the pressure from my parents trying to get me to step aside, so Ben could be with Maya. For me, those two were like bags of trash decomposing in the summer sun. They could do whatever they wanted. If they didn't need permission to do what they did, I don't know why they want it now. Still, it didn't hurt any less. So, I went on that I was basically fired from my job and was surviving thanks to some remote jobs I found online. I was so broken that it was a miracle I even found the energy to work. Even though they were remote jobs and I was only making enough to survive, it was hard to keep going. I haven't been in contact with anyone except for my best friend, who at least makes sure to check on me regularly. My family has never contacted me again. They probably consider me a nuisance now. They are busy with preparations for Maya's wedding. The rest of my friends probably don't know how to approach me after I've avoided them for so long. I feel alone, lost. My whole life is a mess. I'm filled with so much anger thinking about how happy Maya must be now. I feel like doing unthinkable things against her, against Ben, even against the rest of my family. I just want revenge for how much I'm suffering right now. I know it's the pain talking, which is why I'm writing here before I let it speak louder and convince me to do something reckless. I've been thinking of several solutions to my problem, like moving far away and never seeing anyone again. Do you think that would be the best option for me now? Aside from my best friend, I don't know if there is another important reason keeping me tied to this place. The one who was supposed to be my husband, and my family certainly isn't. Update 1. It's been months since my last post, and I've been in a pretty dark place, trying to process everything that has happened. I appreciate the advice from people who encouraged me, as well as those who warned me about my thoughts of revenge. I'm honestly still a mess right now. I finally left and broke my lease on my apartment. I took the rest of my savings, found a full-time remote job that pays much better, and moved several cities away, leaving behind most of the friends and family I once thought cared about me. I don't know how I survived several months living in a different state without much emotional support. I can only thank my best friend, who stayed by my side. She was the only one I communicated with during this time. But even then, I've been living alone, seeing her in person only a couple of times. I've been feeling so alone. I want to believe that at least I've been taking some steps on my path to healing, or so I thought. Just to recap, on my wedding day, my younger sister Maya dropped a bombshell, claiming that she was pregnant with my fiancé's baby. The wedding was canceled, and when my parents sided with Maya, saying the baby deserved a real family, I cut off contact with all of them. Last week, I found out from my best friend that Maya's wedding was canceled. At first, my friend was hesitant to tell me, as she thought it might ruin all my progress. Although, if I'm being honest, there hasn't been much progress. It's not like you wake up one day, and everything that happened is just a bad memory. But finally, she decided I needed to know the truth. Well, my sister was never pregnant. Ben found out when he saw her in a bar, under the influence of alcohol, quite far from her hometown. My sister thought she could go somewhere else, get drunk, and avoid telling him the truth. But I guess there really is no trust in a relationship built through an affair. How did Ben know my sister was there? I don't know, but I wonder what else he doesn't know about. Before ending the call, my best friend warned me that it was Ben who told her all this, and that he has been trying to contact me again. He's already asked her about my whereabouts, but my friend hasn't given him anything. Still, Ben somehow got my contact information again, even though I had changed my number and all the contact methods that other people knew about. That's why he's been texting me with other numbers, asking me to meet, and essentially begging for a chance to explain. It's been a few days, and I've been mulling it over in my mind. I still haven't responded. I don't know if I should ever do so. I'm just starting to see some progress again, but at the same time, a part of me wants to at least have some closure. Maybe that's what I need to put this behind me, hear what he has to say, and be done with it all. But I don't know. I'm really not sure. I don't know if this will help at all, or if it's just going to make it worse. Update 2. It's been a few weeks since my last post. After struggling with my decision for days, I finally agreed to meet with Ben. I needed answers, even though I knew it wasn't going to fix anything. I set strict conditions for the meeting. We met at a coffee shop, public and far from where I live, and my best friend and her boyfriend accompanied me for support. Ben accepted without hesitation. On the day of the meeting, I can't deny that I was very nervous. My best friend and her boyfriend sat nearby, watching the situation while I waited. When Ben arrived, he looked dull, as if he had been going through the same thing I had. He sat down in front of me, and after an awkward start, he began to explain himself. He admitted that he had met Maya before we met and revealed that they had a brief romance in the past. He said he didn't realize she was my sister until he met my family. I wanted to ask questions, but I let him continue talking. He explained that when Maya claimed to be pregnant, he believed her. According to him, the timing made sense, and he thought he was responsible. He confessed that on the day of the wedding, he didn't know how to tell me the truth and felt overwhelmed by guilt and fear. But he swore he never cheated on me while we were together. I asked him how that was possible if he had basically confirmed that he thought the baby was his when Maya pretended to be pregnant. Plus, the timings didn't match. It was obvious. He didn't seem to recognize his mistake, but he insisted there was more he needed to tell me. He asked if we could move to a more private place. I hesitated but agreed, on the condition that my best friend and her boyfriend would stay close. Once we moved to a quieter corner of the coffee shop, Ben finally revealed the most painful part. I'm not going to go into all the details because this has been very difficult for me. But to sum it up, Maya blackmailed Ben. He admitted they had been together, which obviously hurt me deeply. But apparently, she blackmailed him with things from their old relationship and threatened to expose everything. Ben said he felt he had no choice but to obey her because he was afraid I would leave him if I found out. This reminded me of a night when he claimed to feel sick during a family dinner at my parents' house and went to rest in the guest room. He said that was where it all happened. That revelation left me frozen. I could barely process what he was saying, and a part of me didn't even know if I could believe him. Unfortunately, I thought that was the worst. But Ben added that after confronting Maya at the bar and taking her home, she drunkenly admitted that my mother was part of her plan. My mouth went dry. I didn't know what to say. Ben went on to explain that Maya revealed to him that our mother didn't want him to marry me. Apparently, my mother thought that Ben, who doesn't have a good job, wasn't good enough for me. She then urged Maya to destroy our relationship by faking a pregnancy. After making Ben believe he had impregnated her, Maya was supposed to pretend that the baby was gone to avoid the wedding. However, the plan fell apart when Ben discovered the truth. Hearing all this was like reopening an old wound. I can't believe how evil my family could be to do something like this.
I don't know what to do next.
However, one thing is certain, my mother and Maya need to pay for what they have done. Update 3. Before going my update, I would like to clarify something that perhaps was not entirely correctly explained before. I should have reviewed it, but I didn't, and now I realize it's a little unclear. So here's the summary. Ben dated my sister before we met, and he was afraid that if I found out, I would leave him. So, he agreed to sleep with her, so she wouldn't reveal their past. That's why, at the wedding, he thought he was the father of my sister's fake pregnancy. He genuinely believed he had gotten her pregnant. The days following Ben's revelation were filled with mixed emotions. I was no longer only angry with him and my sister, but also with my mother. Regarding my mother, I don't know what to think beyond the fact that she is the queen of manipulation. Not only did she conspire with my sister to end things with Ben, but she also fully committed to her role, trying to convince me not to go back to him. Not that I was planning to go back to him, but it seems my mother hates him a lot. Ben and I met again, this time with less tension, and we talked openly about everything. You may wonder why I met with him after he was unfaithful to me. He had told me that maybe it could help me get revenge. Our conversation also helped us reflect on the events leading up to the wedding, which is when I started to notice patterns I had ignored before. My mother's strange comments, her subtle attacks on Ben's job for not being prestigious enough, or her remarks about his race. It became clear that she had never truly approved of him, and her bitterness had fueled Maya's actions. Maya's behavior, however, left me speechless. I still couldn't believe my sister would go so far as to commit a crime by blackmailing Ben to sabotage my life. Her actions were reckless and cruel. Ben agreed that she should face consequences. When I asked him if he wanted to press charges for what Maya had done, Ben hesitated. He admitted that he didn't want to sue her, as it would be too much for him. However, he agreed that we could use this information as a deterrent. It was then that he came up with an idea to get back at them, not with legal action but by targeting what we knew my mother and sister hated the most, the idea of Ben and me being happy together.
We decided to do just that.
After much discussion and planning, we got married in a small, intimate ceremony with only a few close friends present. It was nothing like the wedding I had once dreamed of, but it felt right. Once the ceremony was over, we took photos and sent them directly to my mother and Maya, along with a carefully thought-out message that explained everything. We let them know that we knew the truth about what they had done, and that we had evidence to back it up. Maya's blackmail and my mother's role in enabling it all. We made it clear that if they ever tried to interfere in our lives again, we wouldn't hesitate to expose them. I also made a public post celebrating our wedding, including some subtle and not so subtle hints directed at my sister and my mother. And yes, it was a fake wedding. I'm not actually marrying Ben, but you know what they say, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I'll update you on the repercussions, or whatever happens next. But for now, I'm going to relax. Ben and I are enjoying the peace and joy of being newlyweds. It's a wonderful feeling, and it's something that no one can take away from us. Update 4. I'm going to give you an update with everything that's been going on lately. I hope I don't have to update anymore after this. But when you deal with manipulative, narcissistic people, it seems like they always find a way back. After we sold the idea that we had gotten married, we sat back and waited for the reactions, and they didn't take long to arrive. We also received reactions from other people, but it took us a little time to explain to them what was actually happening, and to clarify that it was a fake wedding. My mother called me a few hours later, after she read the messages. She seemed a little impatient because I hadn't responded, nor had I even read her earlier messages. I guess she had been taking a nap or something because when she woke up and called me, she had that hoarse voice you get when you've just woken up. She immediately started yelling, saying that I couldn't marry a guy like that. She claimed she knew he was no good for me, that everything she had done was for my well-being, and that I had ruined it by marrying an infidel. I asked her if she was admitting her guilt in all of this, and that managed to shut her up, giving me enough time to tell her that, from now on, it would be better for her to say or do nothing. I warned her that my brand new husband could sue them for extortion, rape, or any other charges a lawyer might dream up. Well, I didn't actually say rape or murder of dolphins, but I did throw out all the legal terms I could think of. I have no idea what Ben could actually sue for, but I'm sure there's some lawyer out there willing to find something if I pay him enough. My intention was to get her out of my life forever. Since I wasn't going to convince Ben to sue them, I told her I didn't want to receive a message, a call, or a visit to my house. I made it clear that if she so much as gossiped about me to a distant relative, she would know exactly what my next step would be. Another thing I demanded was that she reimburse me for the money I had lost when she ruined my wedding with her games. I told her I'd be sending her the bill soon, with all the expenses itemized. She tried to protest, but I reminded her that a lawsuit could cost her even more. The next call I received was from my sister, the person we had specifically staged the fake wedding for. She had always competed with me and wanted what I had, even if she didn't truly want it. That was the point of the fake wedding, to get under her skin. Knowing that I had married, Ben destroyed her, especially since we made it clear that we knew about her plan. She told me that Ben was hers, and that it wasn't fair for me to have married him. She begged me not to ruin her life by exposing her. But I reminded her that she had no problem ruining my wedding and my relationship, and that her tears meant nothing to me. I repeated to her the same warning I had given my mother. The call that surprised me the most, however, came from my father. I'm not sure how he found out about my mother's manipulations, but he did. We only sent the messages directly to my sister and my mother. The public posts contained vague hints and jabs, but nothing explicit. For some reason, I think my sister may have betrayed my mother and told my father what happened. When my father called, he told me he couldn't believe what had happened and needed to confirm it with me. I told him everything and even offered to send him the evidence. He initially refused, saying he believed me, but I sent it anyway. I didn't want there to be any doubt or for him to later claim it had all been a misunderstanding. He seemed very worried and sad during the call, but that's understandable. That's how I felt when everything first happened. So, if my sister and my mother don't do anything else, this will be my last update. But if they try something, there will definitely be more to tell. Update 5. My mother had to open her mouth. So, my fake husband demanded action. Maybe the fact that they found out I hadn't actually gotten married was what made them talk, but that was their last mistake. She told a cousin that she couldn't believe I had staged a fake wedding just to annoy them, and of course, that reached my ears. I had warned them not to say anything about me, not to interfere in my life, and I wouldn't interfere in theirs. I wasn't lying when I told them that the lawsuit would cost them more than paying for my wedding. The wedding expenses alone were $8,000, which was my share. I had already paid $500, but Ben's lawsuit cost my mother an additional $1,000, plus whatever she had to pay in attorney fees. My sister came out even worse because she was sued for extortion as well. With her having more responsibility, her fine amounted to about $8,000 and a year of community service. My ex offered to share the money from the lawsuits with me, but I only accepted enough to cover the remaining wedding expenses that my mother owed me. I just want to end all this. As for my father, he has also asked for a divorce during this time, although it hasn't yet been finalized. In any case, there's no turning back. He was married to a manipulator who is capable of weaving any plan to get what she wants. What do you think about this story? Have you ever experienced something similar, or do you know someone who has? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to hit the notification bell and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories.